All right, there's the Zoom goddess telling us we're starting to record, so let's go. So I am Diane Lynn. I am a weight loss coach, and I became a weight loss coach a few years ago after I lost 65 pounds myself following a sensible diet and brain training. And so that's what I want to show you tonight is how brain training can actually help boost your weight loss efforts, because I found brain training so helpful that it helps in other ways too, not just weight loss. Anything, any goal you want to accomplish, anything you want to do in your life, you can use the tools that some of the tools I'm teaching tonight, and then of course in the remaining classes too, to be able to help you reach those goals. So let's get started. And to kick it off, I'm going to start with a video to get you in the right frame of mind to talk about brain training. The video, can you see my screen now? You can just nod, Amy, because I can see you. All right, I'm sharing my screen. And here's the video. Now, the lady in this video, this is not a video that I made. It's someone from the UK, and she's got a very lovely British accent. But I love this video for really understanding what brain training is and how it can help you. So let me do that. And hold on one second. I already have to back up and press the button again. Share, stop share, share. Share sound. All right. Here we go.
Not so long ago, many scientists believed that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence, neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-travelled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road. It becomes easier for our brains to travel this pathway. Say we think about something differently, learn a new task, or choose a different emotion. We start carving out a new road. If we keep travelling that road, our brains begin to use this pathway more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The old pathway gets used less and weakens. This process of rewiring your brain by forming new connections and weakening old ones is neuroplasticity in action. The good news is that we all have the ability to learn and change by rewiring our brains. If you have ever changed a bad habit or thought about something differently, you have carved a new pathway in your brain and experienced neuroplasticity firsthand. With repeated and directed attention towards your desired change, you can rewire your brain.
So I love that video. For me, it talks about the hope that we have. The things that we think and the things that we believe about our lives are not necessarily things that we need to be stuck with or live with for the rest of our lives. Things can be changed. So there's a lot of possibility in that video. So let's kick this off. So brain training for weight loss. My number one ground rule is don't beat yourself up. Please stop beating yourself up. Internal beatings are one of the biggest mental contributors to being overweight. So when we beat ourselves up, we feel bad, and then we want food to comfort ourselves so we feel better. So please be an impartial observer of your thoughts. Be curious. So as we go through this, and if you join the remaining classes, I'm going to ask you to really just take out your thoughts and look at them and say, I wonder why I was thinking that instead of, don't use it as a bat to hit yourself over the head. Why was I thinking that and yelling at yourself? Instead, just be curious and decide whether or not that thought is serving you or not. And I'm going to just pause 1 second and make sure that there isn't anybody trying to get in right now that I have to admit to this meeting. Nope. Okay. Let me go back. All right. So I'm going to start right now with the solution to being overweight. I can solve it all in one slide. Here it is. I'm joking. Reduce hunger and desire to natural states so you can be your natural weight. So what that means is, can you imagine if you just weren't as hungry as you have been? Your hunger levels just kind of go back to just a normal, you get hungry when your body needs fuel, and you are not hungry anymore when your body has enough fuel. And that's it. What do you think about that? Wouldn't that be a great way to live? And then have your desire levels also come down to levels that are manageable. So you're not just like losing your mind every time you see your favorite junk food or a cupcake or something. So if your hunger and your desire were actually natural states, you could become your natural weight. And the natural weight was a concept that absolutely blew me away. I was really surprised by that because I'd never heard that before. I knew what I wanted to weigh, but I did not know what natural weight meant. And it's literally when you're just eating for fuel and you're not storing excess. So that's the goal. But there's a lot of things in play here. There's all the nutrition and the exercise, of course, but then there's also what you're thinking that plays a big role in this. So let me show you how. So your habitual thoughts create your feelings, urges, and over desire that cause you to overeat. And when I say overeat, I don't mean that one time where you ate too much and you're dying and you feel very uncomfortable and everything. I'm talking about when you have simply over time eaten more than your body needed for fuel. So what you need to do in order to permanently change your desire to overeat is to first become aware of your thoughts, right? Thoughts just occur. We don't really manage them much. We've never been taught how to manage them. They're just things that go on in our brains, and we don't really try to supervise what they're saying. So first, be aware of your thoughts, and then choose new thoughts that'll actually reduce desire and reduce your urges for food. And that is what I'm going to be teaching in this class. So the very first step in this process is to understand the difference between circumstances and thoughts. Now, circumstances are completely neutral facts. They are things that we all can agree on, and thoughts about circumstances can vary greatly. So I can say to you, it's 4:15. And if my clock is right, you can all agree with me. Or if you're in a different time zone, maybe you'll argue a little bit like Amy, but it's 4:15, and that's just a fact, right? There's no emotion tied to it. But if I say, oh my gosh, it's already 4:15, then I'm having some emotion about that. I feel like I'm running late or something is rushing me, right? Or if you said, oh my God, it's only 4:15, Diane is boring the heck out of me. When is she going to be done? Then you have some emotion around that fact. But the fact is the same, right? Okay, so let me give you another fact that a client came to me with. The fact of their life was that they weighed 250 pounds. Okay, now some people can have certain thoughts about that fact, and that person certainly did, and others can have completely different thoughts about that fact. And let me show you how. Some people might be thinking, oh my gosh, I'm bigger than I've ever been. Nothing looks good on me. I'm out of control. But that very same fact, that 250 pounds, could also make other people think, yay, I've lost 50 pounds, I'm down 4 dress sizes or pant sizes, and I can do this. So that very same neutral fact has some emotion that can be very wide ranging, right? It's like almost opposite ends of the spectrum. So that's how we know that it's really our thoughts that we're attaching to the circumstance that actually change how we view the world. So I'll give you a little bit more information about circumstances and thoughts, and then I'm going to do a quiz. So circumstances, those are just facts. There's no emotion, not even an adjective. You're not even going to say something like it's already 4:15 or something like that. You're just going to give the fact, okay? It's not subjective. It's not something that it's like, well, this is my opinion. Your opinion might be a little different. A fact is a fact. There's no opinion involved. And it's something that we all can agree on, something that can be argued in a court of law, okay? Now, thoughts, on the other hand, they may contain emotions, they may contain judgment, subjectivity. In fact, they usually do. There can be all kinds of things in thoughts. They don't even have to be true. They vary widely, and they may or may not be true depending on what you're thinking and when you're thinking it. And when I say they vary widely, they could vary widely just, between two different people, obviously, but then even I could have a certain thought about a circumstance one day that I have a completely different thought about that circumstance another day. Okay. So now I'm going to ask you to participate here and give me the answers to a quiz here. I'm going to give you these sentences and I'll read them one at a time. And I'm going to ask you if you think they're a circumstance or a thought. And so what you can do, you can just put a C or a T in the chat box. Okay. So the first one is, I eat when I'm stressed. Is that a circumstance or a thought? And I'm going to pull up the chat screen. I don't know if you can see my chat screen when I have it open or not. But no, you can't. Okay. Go ahead and type a C or a T if you think that I eat when I'm stressed is a circumstance or a thought. What do you think? I've got one person so far that said it's a C. Does anybody else want to take a guess? Okay, I've got a C and a T, so we've got both now. Okay. How about I need to lose 50 pounds? Is that a circumstance or a thought? Thought. Okay. Thought. Okay, I think we have a consensus on that one. How about I'm pre-diabetic? Circumstance or thought? C. Okay, I'm getting circumstance on that one. All right. I don't know how to cook healthy meals. Circumstance or thought? Thought. Okay, good. I need to stop overeating. Circumstance or thought? Okay, looks like thought is the consensus here. My husband said I've gotten fat. Circumstance or thought? Thought. Okay, got a couple of thoughts. And how about I ate a whole bag of chips last night? Circumstance. Looks like everyone was pretty in agreement on that one. Okay. All right. I got you a split on the first one here. I eat when I'm stressed. That is a thought. That's a thought because that's something that, like, how would you know that I eat when I'm stressed? And what does stress mean? Do we both have the same definition of stress? See, there's a lot of subjectivity there. That's not something that can be proved. How can you prove I'm feeling stressed? So that is actually a thought. I need to lose 50 pounds. Very good, is a thought. I'm pre-diabetic. Very good, is a circumstance, because that's a doctor's diagnosis, right? That's something that someone has said to us that's just a fact, okay? I don't know how to cook healthy meals is absolutely a thought, but I still remember the client that swore to me that it was true. She said, no, I really don't. My whole family knows it. I can't cook anything healthy. I'm like the family joke when it comes to that. And I'm like, okay, so I know you think that that's a fact, but what's your definition of a healthy meal? And she said, well, I know it's got to be lots of veggies and, like a salad or something. And I said, what'd you make for dinner last night? She described a casserole with some chicken and broccoli in it with pasta. And I guess it was the pasta that was making her think it wasn't a healthy meal. But to a lot of people, that casserole is a healthy meal. So there's subjectivity in there, right? So that is not a circumstance. You guys are all correct that that's a thought. I need to stop overeating, absolutely, is a thought. And then this one, don't feel bad. I get everyone with this one. This is actually a circumstance. Now, I know that's very rude that he said that I've gotten fat, and never mind the fact that he's going to be sleeping on the couch tonight. The fact is, he said it. So if you look at the sentence carefully, look at those words and say, my husband said I've gotten fat. We could go ask him, did you say that to her? He can say, yes, I did. We can argue it in a court of law and prove that it was, yeah, that's true. And he said that. So that is actually a circumstance. He may or may not be right. And again, he may or may not be sleeping in bed tonight. But anyway, and then I ate a whole bag of chips last night. Absolutely, that is a circumstance. That's something that we can prove. You just bought the chips and here the bag is, and now it's completely empty. I ate them all. So, all right, I'm going to go back on. I wonder what happens if I keep the chat window open. No, that didn't work. Okay. Let me go back to sharing my screen and we'll go back. All right. So what I just showed you was about the circumstance and the thought, and that's a very first step in the process of one of the best tools that I have in my toolbox that can help you with your mindset coaching. Okay, and it's called the thought model. And it was from the place that I certified through, which is called the Life Coach School. And it's simply that all aspects of our lives can be categorized into 5 things. And let me caveat this by saying to you, anybody that's familiar with cognitive behavioral therapy, this is very much along those lines. This basically is cognitive behavioral therapy, except boiled down for people like me and everybody to be able to use as a DIY type of brain training tool. Okay, so what they discovered was basically all aspects of our lives can be categorized into one of these 5 things. They're either a circumstance, a thought, a feeling, an action, or a result. Okay. And furthermore, that each one of these things funnels into the other this way. So circumstances, then thoughts, then feelings, and so on. So let me just review this really quickly so you know the structure of the model. So circumstances are those indisputable facts that we were talking about. There's something neutral that has no emotion. And I'll give you some examples in a minute. Then you have a thought about those facts. So thoughts are our interpretations of those facts. And if you had to define what a thought is to someone, it's simply a sentence that happens in your mind, right? So you are not your thought. You are not your brain. We're trying to separate that now. And they're just these sentences that run around in there. We have about 60,000 thoughts a day, all of us. And that's a lot going on, and we're not sort of stopping them and looking them in and deciding which ones help us. So that's what we're doing now. We're going to just kind of slow that process down with this tool. Then once you have one of these sentences that happens in your mind as a reaction to a circumstance, you have a feeling about it. Now, a feeling is always caused by our thoughts. It's an emotion. It's a vibration that you feel in your body. And I know it's interesting to think about feelings or emotions being vibrations in your body, but they are. Literally, I mean, you know what sadness feels like in your body. It's a physical feeling, right? And anger, I kind of can feel it kind of in my neck and in my jaw. That's where I feel anger. I'm not talking about the feelings of like, I feel tired or I feel hungry. I'm talking about those emotions that are literally vibrations in your body. And then once you have one of these vibrations, or you want a vibration that you want to feel good or something like that, you take action. So actions are always caused by our feelings, either feelings we want to feel or we don't want to feel. And its actions are things that we either do or things we don't do. Inaction in this case is also action. Okay. And then from our actions, we get results. Now, results are always caused by our actions, and they're always evidence of the original thought. If you take a look and look at the thought that started this whole chain, you'll find that there's a link. So I'm going to give you an example that this is an example that I had when I was going through my coach training a few years ago. It was February. I was living in Dallas at the time, and I woke up in the morning and it was cold and rainy. And I have a very, very strong neural pathway about that. If you remember the video we looked at in the beginning, this one is really a nice, thick neural pathway. Instantly, when I see that it's cold and rainy outside, when I get up in the morning, my thought is, oh, it's gloomy and cold outside. I don't want to do anything. Okay. So that thought that's so automatic after years and years of training my brain to think that way automatically happens, and it makes me feel depressed. When I feel depressed about the rain and the cold, I don't want to do anything. So I don't go out into the rain. I skip my yoga class and I eat comfort food on top of it to make myself feel better because I'm feeling crappy because it's raining outside and it's cold. So then the results are that I actually get the gloomy day that I was worried about. And on top of that, I was upset that I didn't keep my food and exercise commitment. So can you see how I did this to myself? You know, it's not an automatic. Not everybody hates cold and rainy mornings. Some people, I don't know, they put on their rubber boots and they go out and sing in it. I don't know. Not me, but I mean, it doesn't have to be the way that everyone reacts about it. So this is an example right here of my unintentional thought that I had based on these neural pathways that I've been nurturing for years and years and years. And I said, well, that's crazy. I'm the one that is ruining my day every time it's cold and rainy outside. And since I didn't know that was going to stop anytime soon, I've since then moved to Florida. So now I don't get the cold part anymore. So that's nice. But I decided, you know what? I can't do this to myself anymore. I want to change this. So we start again. We say, all right, now let's have an intentional thought model about this. How do I want to think and feel? What kind of a day do I want to have when the circumstance is it's cold and rainy? So here we have the same circumstance again, but then I decided, all right, instead of this, I'm going to borrow a play from my son's playbook. He is really an avid gym goer. He goes and works out 6 days a week in Boston. And he did one day after a big snowstorm that they had. And I was like, wow, I can't believe you went out to the gym in that kind of weather. That was really bad out. And he said, oh, that makes me feel even better. When I actually have to struggle to get there to the gym, I feel even better about myself because it was hard to do and I did it anyway. And I'm like, all right, I am totally going to borrow that. This is a chance to prove my commitment to exercise. So that's when I decided that's what I'm going to think. The next time I'm going to plan ahead. The next time I encounter a cold and rainy day, I'm going to think this is a chance to prove my commitment to exercise. And how does that make me feel in my body when I think that thought? I feel different just saying it to you right now. That makes me feel strong. That makes me feel pretty good. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I'm picturing my son in my head. All right, so when I feel strong about this chance to prove my commitment, what will I do? I will go out in the rain and go to yoga. And I don't comfort myself with food because I felt good about the day. I didn't ruin it by hiding from the cold and the rain. I actually conquered it and I felt good about it. So the result that I got was I was actually proud I kept my commitment to exercise and to my food protocol. So I changed the trajectory of all of my cold and rainy days on purpose by deciding in advance to think that thought on purpose. Now, I didn't just remember it, I planned it. And luckily for me, the very next day was also cold and rainy, so I got to try it immediately. But I mean, you have to sort of make it a part of your consciousness, make a decision to try to think this thought instead of the other one. Catch yourself when you're thinking, oh, I don't want to go outside, and think this one instead. So what I actually did is I put a Post-it note on my bathroom mirror to remind me to think this way whenever it was cold and rainy. And it has worked. It has worked. So let me give you another one that's related more specifically to weight loss. And this one also was exactly what happened to me. So my circumstance was that for many years in a row, my doctor told me I needed to lose 50 pounds. And the very last time she said that to me, she also told me that I was pre-diabetic. So there's another circumstance for you. She said, if I don't change anything, I was going to be a diabetic by the time I came back to her the following year. But every time she said this to me, my automatic thought process was just, I'll never be able to keep that or lose that much weight and keep it off. Not possible. Can't do it. And whenever I thought that thought, I felt overwhelmed. It was just a monumental task, it seemed to me. And when I felt overwhelmed about it, the action that I took, even though it sounds counterintuitive, is that I don't do anything. Because I think I can't, and because I think I won't be successful, I didn't do anything at all. That's why I continued to weigh the same year after year. So I avoided starting any kind of a diet or exercise program. So the result was I didn't lose any weight. So do you see how this thought right here, I'll never be able to lose that much and keep it off, is something that actually leads me to not lose the weight and keep it off? Okay. If I keep thinking that thought, it is really likely that I'm going to be right. I'll make myself right, because there's a name for it too, but our brains always want to be right. And they're always going to be looking for ways to justify and make sure that we are right about the decisions we make. And if I'm telling myself I can't do that, my brain will help me be right. And I will avoid, I will procrastinate, I will resist, I will do all of those things. So instead, I got a weight loss coach, and she said, all right, now we need to change this because you've been looping over here in this old unintentional thought process for a long time. How are we going to break you out of it? And I said, I don't know how, please help me. And she said, all right, well, let's start again with an intentional thought process. The circumstance is the same. Your doctor said you need to lose 50 pounds. She said, so what would you need to think in order to have a different outcome? And I stared at that box for I don't even know how long. Actually, she gave it to me for homework. So I had a good week to think about it, and I still couldn't come up with anything. I was like, I have no idea what I can think that can make me lose 50 pounds. It's just not even possible to me. So she said, all right, let's try this then. Because each one of these equals the next, you can fill them out in any order. You don't have to go straight down from the top. So let's start with the result that you want. What is the result that you would like out of this new intentional thought process of yours? So I said, all right, I want to lose 50 pounds. So I'll put in the result, lose 50 pounds. And right after I typed it in, like this wave of overwhelm hit me again. And I was like, but I can't, I'll never be able to lose that much and keep it off. It just washed over me all over again. And she could see it on my face. She's like, that doesn't feel possible to you, does it? And I was like, no, nope, it still doesn't feel possible. So what do I do? And she said, all right, let's back up then. Let's not do that one. Okay, that's not causing good thoughts for you. Let's find something that feels more possible. She said, how about if you just start losing some weight? Like, okay, if I plug in I want the result that I start losing some weight. Okay, all right. That actually feels doable. I wasn't rebelling. I wasn't feeling overwhelmed. I'm like, all right, that's good. All right. So now, she said, you know, what are you feeling right now when I say you're going to start losing weight? And I said, well, I actually feel kind of hopeful. I feel a little hope that this actually can work. And she said, all right, so let's plug that in. Hopeful. All right. So if you felt hopeful, do you think that you could start losing some weight? And I said, yeah, and actually that'll loop right there, because if I feel hopeful and I start losing weight, I'll start losing weight. It makes me feel more hopeful. And that'll be a nice loop to be in for once, right? Okay, so we've got 2 of these filled in here below the circumstance. Now the other 2. And I said, I still can't think of what thought I need. She said, don't worry about that yet. Let's talk about the action. What actions do you think that you could take if you felt hopeful that you could start losing weight? And I thought, well, all right. It's not like, you know, boom, I have to lose 50 pounds. What can I just do? What little thing could I do to just start losing some weight? So I thought, all right, I can cut out sugar as much as I can. And to be honest, I was pulling my punches because I'm actually not much of a sugar eater. I love the salty snacks more. So it was kind of me taking the easy way out, saying that I could cut out sugar because I knew that wouldn't be as hard for me as cutting out salty snacks. But anyway, so I said, all right, if I cut out sugar as much as I can, could I start losing weight? Yeah, all right. And then all of a sudden, I knew exactly what the thought was. I can start losing weight by just working on one thing. And suddenly it just sort of populated itself and I knew what to do. And so now when I say, and when I think to myself, I can start losing weight by just working on one thing, just to check and see if it works. Does that make me feel hope in my body? Do I feel hopeful? And the answer is yes. All right. And if I felt hopeful, could I cut out sugar? And if I cut out sugar, could I start losing weight? And she's like, we have a good model. I'm like, oh, wow, 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 wow. And it felt so much better to me than thinking about the 50 pounds that I needed to lose. And if you recall, in the beginning of our chat, when we were talking, I said that I actually lost 65 pounds. I didn't stop at the 50 my doctor recommended. So that one sentence kicked off a phenomenal change in my health and in my career, because once I learned this, I decided there's no way I can keep doing what I was doing. I was in analytics and things like that. And I just decided I've got to quit everything and become a weight loss coach and help other people like me. So I hope that you can see how this works. Let me give you a few more examples of how your brain can sabotage you. And you might even be realizing now some thoughts that have come into your head that are likely not helpful, not going to help you reach your goal, and in fact, might be sending you in the opposite direction. So there was a client that came to my teacher and she shared the story with me. And she said, this woman came and she said, I want to lose weight and I need to exercise to do it. Or one of the ways that she's going to do it is to exercise. But she said, but I never do it. And so my coach started to ask her, okay, well, what do you feel when you think the thought, I need to exercise? And she said, well, I feel pressure. I feel desire. I want to, intellectually, I want to exercise, but really, I just feel stress about it. I just really feel kind of icky. So they talked some more and tried to figure out a little bit more about what was going on. And the woman was really kind of stumped. It was a little difficult to dig in and figure out the thought. So my coach said to her, well, what are you feeling? Well, right in that moment when you're about to go and exercise, what is your thought? What is that feeling in your body? And she thought about it for a little while and she's like, I don't really feel anything. I just, maybe I would call it apathy. She said, I feel no drive to exercise at all. I feel nothing. So they continued to talk. Okay, you have no drive to exercise. Why is that? And they talked a little bit more about that. And then finally the woman said, it won't matter anyway. And that was when my coach realized, okay, we've got something going on here. Why do you think it won't matter? That's something that we can work with. So they started a new model and they said, all right, your thinking has your thinking about exercise has created a larger belief about exercise not mattering or not making a difference. And so the woman thought about it and she said, well, I've tried Zumba, but it was too hard. I've joined a gym, but I never went. I'm too out of shape to exercise, and I'm just not someone who exercises. Those are some of the many thoughts that she had about exercise, but all of it sort of formed this belief that exercise is not fun and doesn't work for her. Okay. And if you think that, if you believe that, how excited would you be to go out the door and go to the gym? Not very much, right? It's not going to matter. Why bother? Doesn't work anyway, right? So she needed to change her belief and she needed to start with things that are true. You can't just automatically say, no, I love it. Give me some weights. I want to lift some right now. You know, it's not that way. You can't just like have these rainbows and unicorn thoughts and have it work right away. It has to be something that you can believe. So she started with, well, what other thoughts can you believe about exercise? She said, well, I like taking the dog for a walk. That's, I guess, exercise. She's like, yeah, sure it is. It doesn't have to be going to the gym, right? And she said, yeah, all right, then I guess, I can take the stairs at work. A lot of us talk about parking further out and then walking from wherever we park to get the extra steps in. That's possible. That's exercise. And she's like, yeah, I could go to yoga with my neighbor. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I really used to like swimming. That was really good exercise for me back then, and I enjoyed it. And so, yeah. So these are a bunch of different thoughts that she came up with that in order to help her form her new belief about exercise, which became exercise is something I can do. Do you see how her interim thoughts and her belief can change the outcome for her? And I will tell you that this woman was successful losing her weight with my coach back years ago when this scenario occurred for her. I'm just going to pause for a second here and check my window and see if there's anybody that is waiting to get in or has any questions. Okay, no. All right, let me go ahead and start us up again and continue on. All right, so now I have a little quiz for you. What percentage of your life is positive versus negative? So you can type it in the chat. What percentage of your life would you say is positive versus negative? If your life is 100%, what do you think? Good question, says Sandy. Any thoughts? Give me a number, just a percentage, just a wild guess. It's different for everyone. There's no rhyme or reason sometimes for where the numbers come from. You're not going to flunk. Okay, 80%. Oh, there you go. 60%. Yep. All right. So Peggy, that was actually what I had said. That was my answer, 80%, when I was first asked this question. But the truth of the matter is that our lives are all 50-50 on average over time. Okay. You may have some days that tip the scale toward positive or days that tip the scale toward negative. But most of our days, for most of us, are going to have a combination of both, and life is going to be 50-50. And the reason that this is important is because when we spend time fighting this sort of law of nature, that's where we can get into trouble. So with me thinking that my life is 80% positive, whenever something went wrong, I was maybe disproportionately upset. I was like, no, it can't go wrong. It's not supposed to happen. Bad things don't happen to me. I have a great life. I had all those kinds of thoughts. And I was resisting what the reality was. Let me show you what can happen when we resist it. So, come on. If we were trying to manufacture more positive, if I wanted another 30% over that 50% that's there, if I wanted another 30% positive in my life, I might turn to things that are actually going to cause me harm, like eating, drinking, seeking false pleasure, because I might get so desperate to have, good feelings and positive emotions that I might do some things like getting the dopamine from eating or the buzz from drinking or watching Netflix, binging on Netflix and zoning out, or online shopping. But all of those things can have negative consequences. So artificially manufacturing positive actually has a whole bunch of negativity that comes with it, unfortunately. Okay, so we can't just live in this hedonistic world of all just pleasure and great things. We have to accept that there's some negative in life. Okay, so the 50% negative, for those of us who may have said that we have even more negative in our lives than that, maybe I've had people say that 80% of their lives are negative. And what happens there is that means that they are avoiding, resisting, ignoring, and they're making more out of the negative than there needs to be. So, and sometimes by doing some of the same things that are on the other side, if you don't want to feel a negative emotion, you might zone out watching Netflix for hours and hours and hours over the weekend. Or if you are ignoring we have someone joining. If you're ignoring someone that, maybe a relationship that has gone bad, it's still there whether you're ignoring it or not. But so basically what happens is your life is in the center. It's still 50-50 and you're not living in it. You're trying to either get away from the negative or manufacture a positive for yourself. And that is just not the best way to live. You want to live your life right there in the middle and accept that sometimes there's going to be some bad days. Sometimes there's going to be some negativity. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the song, Mama Said There'll Be Days Like This. Mama said there'll be days like this. There'll be days like this. My mama said, right? So I can't believe I just sang during a recorded class. Anyway, I actually hear that song in my head when I'm having a bad day. I don't even know what that is. Just if something negative crosses my mind, if I realize I'm kind of in a bad mood, it's just like, oh, well, it's one of these days. Mama said they were going to happen. No big deal. Okay. It's when we're devastated by that bad event and when we feel like we need, food or alcohol or something to help us through it because we can't handle the fact that something negative is happening in our life. That's where we get into trouble. And that's why accepting this 50-50 concept, it can be such a gift. It was for me, and with the music and lyrics included, because I literally hear that song every time I think of this. And I think we still have time for one more. I'm going to skip ahead to this really quickly. Yeah, okay, I'll do this real quick. All right, so when you're getting an urge to overeat, when you overeat, you're responding to urges. And if you look at this poor lady with the cookies and donuts all around her, it's driving her crazy and she's about to respond to one of those urges and grab one and eat it, right? But I want to offer to you that you have an opportunity to do one of three things every time you feel an urge, okay? The first one is give in. Just, okay, I see those fries in that hamburger and I'm just going to eat it. I have an urge and I give in and I follow it and I let it happen, okay? Or I can resist it. I can say, no, I'm trying to lose weight. Oh, that burger looks really good, but I'm not going to have it. And I can kind of like white knuckle my way through and use my willpower and strength to try and stop myself from eating that juicy, wonderful smelling burger. Or I can allow the urge. I can say, yep, I feel the urge for that hamburger and fries, but I'm not going to have them. I'm going to have this salad anyway. So that's what allowing an urge means. When you allow an urge, it means you just acknowledge it and sit with it, as this woman on the right is doing. She's not overly upset about the fact that she can't have that burger. She sees it, but she's just not gonna, she's like, no. So you can actually, if you can, say this out loud to yourself, or you can type it. But if you say to yourself, I'm having an urge for that burger and fries, but I'm not gonna have it. Just say it out loud, type it in an email to yourself, whatever it is. However you can, to just sort of acknowledge it and sit with it. And I promise you, it will pass. It will definitely decrease. You can tell yourself, my desire to lose weight is more important than my desire for that burger. Okay? And that by beginning to allow and process the urges that you have, they will decrease in strength and frequency. So you'll have them less often and they will feel less strong the more you do this. This is brain training, and this is getting your brain used to the fact that you are not going to just respond every time you see a donut and grab it and eat it. That's not who you are anymore. Okay. All right. We have gotten to the end of our time for class. Let me just spend a little bit of time telling you about the remaining weeks here. So this was actually class 1 of a 6-week series of classes. And Amy is going to put in the chat window a link that you can use to sign up for the other 5 classes. And I will tell you this right now, if any of this information tonight was helpful, if any of it blew you away, I have more. I have much more, because I probably had this feeling of being blown away every week during my training, during my coach training. So I have a lot of really, really good stuff, helpful tools and concepts that I'll be sharing with you in the remaining classes, just like tonight. We're going to do every Tuesday starting now. It'll be 4 o'clock next Tuesday as well until we get to the last Tuesday, which I think is a couple days before Thanksgiving. And we'll meet for an hour, just like tonight, via Zoom. And as a special offer, I'm going to also throw in a one-on-one private session with me. And during the 5 weeks, you'll have unlimited access to me via email. You can ask me questions and go back and forth. If you're trying to do some models, I'm happy to help you with work on them, things like that. And I have a discount offer from Cedarquist Medical Wellness, which some of you are familiar with, some of you may not be, but it is a medical wellness facility based here in Naples. They help hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of people lose weight. And they have a special discount offer that's coming for those of you that came to this class tonight. So look for an email from them tomorrow. And but look for an email from me tonight that'll tell you about how you can register for the 5 remaining classes. And happy to answer any kind of questions. You can email me at diane@dianelynncoaching.com. So that brings us to the end of our class. Does anybody have any questions for me? All right, now Sylvia, you weren't on in the beginning, but I will send this out to you. Do you have some questions for me, Sylvia?
No, unfortunately, I missed most of it, but I saw some things at the end. It looked very interesting.
Good.
And keep me in the loop on this, and maybe I'll do that.
Okay, all right. Well, Amy, what did you want to say?
You're on mute.
I just was going to share one of the questions. It looks like Nancy was asking, what do I do when I need something sweet?
Ah, okay, I didn't see that. Thank you. So that would be an urge. Okay, so when you're needing something sweet, I mean, there's a bunch of things you can do. And there's things I'm sure that the nutritionists at Cedarquist would tell you and recommend. But as far as brain training is concerned, when you're having an urge for something sweet, that's when you would say, okay, I'm having an urge for something sweet right now, but I don't want to. That doesn't match with my desire for weight loss. I prefer to stay away from sugar. Maybe if you're quitting sugar for your diet, I don't know exactly what you're doing for your diet, but so let's see if I can just, have a glass of water and feel okay. Because a lot of times, and I'll promise you, this actually really does help when you're feeling an urge for something. And you start to do your brain training. I have trained my brain to feel very satisfied on a glass of water. And I can't even believe I can say that now, because again, I was overweight for most of my adult life, and this all was very foreign to me. It did not even seem possible, but that's why I'm here tonight, to let you all know that it is possible. So if it doesn't feel possible that you can drink some water when you really want a candy bar, I promise you that it is, but it's consistent training. It's going to be, okay, I'm feeling the urge for a candy bar right now. I'm going to try and not have it. And I would wait about 15 minutes if you can. And that we look at the 15-minute cycle as you would have successfully resisted that candy bar for 15 minutes. You have overcome the urge. You've allowed it and you have processed it. And usually the urge will go away. If you just give it some time, you'd be surprised how that urge can go away. However, if you're actually just trying to resist the candy bar, if you're saying, oh, I want a Snickers right now, but I really can't have one, but I want one, but I can't have one, you're going to make yourself crazy. You're going to make it worse. You're actually building up levels of desire by continuing to think about it. And you're going to want your brain is getting really obsessed with it at a certain point. And you need to just kind of back up and just say, no, I'm not going to have it right now. If I still want it in a half hour, I'll have it. And then do it. Does that answer your question, Nancy? Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for me? All right. Well, it was good to see you all tonight. I hope to see you again in our classes that will continue next week. And everybody have a great night. Take care. Bye-bye.